This evening I have to give a talk on the subject, the doctrine of karma. What does it mean? The doctrine of action and its effect. Some people translate it as the doctrine of cause and effect. Hinduism allows all questions to be asked, and that's why the question which is asked is, what is karma? The doctrine of karma, this is the subject. What is karma? The answer is, in Sanskrit, indriyanam vyaparaha karma. That means karma is something in which the organs are involved. Organs. So how many organs do you have? According to Hinduism, there are 11 organs or 11 indriyas. 5 are called gyanendriyas, that means sense organs. Another 5 are called karmendriya, motor organs. And then there is another organ which is internal organ, which is called antarindriya. So the sense organs are 5. The eyes with which we see, the ears with which we hear, and the nose with which we get smell of things, and the tongue with which we taste things, and the skin with which we touch other things. In Sanskrit, chakshu, karna, nasika, jiva, tvak. These are 5 sense organs. And what are 5 motor organs? In Sanskrit, Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upastha. Vak means the organ of speech. Pani means the organ with which we grasp things, that means our fingers of our hands. And Pada means the organ of locomotion, which helps us to move around, that means our feet. And then Payu, that means the organ, or which is anus, so to say, through which all digested food goes out of our body. And also the genital organ, upastha. These are 10 organs. And the internal organ is the mind. Thus, we have 11 organs, 11 indriyas. Whatever is done by one or more of these organs is called karma or action, and they produce some effect. There is an expression called nitya karma, and which has to be done every day. And it is also said that if you do it, no special effect will be there. But if you don't do it, some bad effect will be there. It may sound a little ridiculous, but no. It is like nitya karma is like brushing our teeth. If we brush our teeth, then no immediate effect is noticeable. But if we don't brush our teeth, there will be cavities. Cavities in the teeth. Nitya karma is something like that. If you do it don't have any tangible effect, but if you don't do it, there will be some bad effect. And also there is another type of action or karma, which is called naimittika karma. That is, in Hinduism, if the parents die, the children have to pray to God for the well-being of the parents, and that has to be done once every year at least, and that is called naimittika karma, such action. Something which is required to be done. And also there is a kind of action which is called prayaschitta karma. That means a person has done something heinous, bad, and say he has to, or something which causes sin. So to atone for that sin, you have to go through some practice, spiritual practice, some ritual. That is called prayaschitta. Now let me come back to the doctrine of karma. All our actions can be divided into two groups: good actions and bad actions. What is a good action? A good action is that action which is performed unselfishly, and bad action is something which is performed selfishly. And we use the word good and bad frequently. Most probably always we are not sure of what these two words mean. If somebody asks, what is good? Then the person may be in trouble. I was once, while I was in India, I visited that city Mysore, where we have a famous school called Vidyashala. And there the Swami who was in charge, he said to me, why don't you give a talk to the boys? And the boys in the top class of the school, I was supposed to talk to them. Then I asked one boy, are you considered a good boy? Then he said, yes, I think so. Then I said, why are you a good boy? Tell me, who is a good boy? The boy could not tell anything. That is, a boy will be called a good boy if that boy is unselfish. Then I said, suppose you have a friend, if you think that friend is a good friend, then that friend will be making self-sacrifice for you. But if the friend is very selfish, then you don't call that friend a good friend. In the same way, a good husband is he who willingly and lovingly makes self-sacrifice for his wife. And who is a good wife? A good wife is she who willingly and lovingly makes self-sacrifice for her husband. So unselfishness is goodness. I have seen in some homes this writing which is framed and hung from the walls. God is good. God is good means God is unselfishness. And I have said that in the past also, that what Swami Vivekananda said, he said God is unselfishness itself. So good action is unselfish action and bad action is selfish action. And every action produces some effect. except what is called nitya karma, which I mentioned, like brushing their teeth. They say that if you do it, you don't have any great effect or anything, but if you don't do it, there will be some bad effect. That is called nitya karma. So good action is unselfish action and bad action is selfish action. And all actions produce their effects. According to our understanding, I mean. But according to Hinduism, nitya karma does not produce effect. Well, let us forget nitya karma. But every action produces effect. And the person who is the performer of that action, or who is the doer, the result of that, of his or her action, will come back to him or her like boomerang. So that is a strange thing. If you perform action, then its effect will come back to you. They're like that boomerang. And so that's why this effect is called karma phala, or fruit of action. There are some actions that are considered very bad in Hinduism. They are called atyutkata karma, extremely bad actions, and their results are also very bad. The effects will be very bad, and all the effects will come back to the doer. So what is extremely bad action, or atyutkata karma? Our scriptures say that killing or hurting a saintly soul or hurting a holy place, that will be extremely bad action. Or hurting a defenseless woman, that will be very bad action, extremely bad. And their results will come almost immediately in this life. Otherwise, some of the results of our action, effects of our action, they get accumulated. That's why there is saying that is the action that we are performing now is called kiyamana karma. The effects of such action may not come to us immediately. Some actions will produce late bearing effect. For example, this term deposits in banks, you may put $100,000 in a bank, but it is a term deposit. That is, after 5 years it will mature. That means all the interest that will be obtained by you from that investment, that will be available to you after 5 years. So, if you invest your money now, you won't get the result immediately. You have to wait for 5 years. Or suppose you have some apple seed. You sow that apple seed in the ground. But will you get apples from that action? No, you have to wait for several years. Then the seed will germinate, and then a tree will come out of it, and after several years it will start bearing apples, fruits. So you have to wait for all these years. Some actions are like that. They don't produce immediate effect. And it may sometimes happen that a person has performed some actions, good or bad. The results will come much later. And before the results have come, the doer of that action dies. Then what will happen? So in Hinduism, reincarnation is considered a fact. After death of this body, the internal fine body goes with the soul to another plane of existence, and eventually it is reborn, if one wants to be reborn. That desire will bring that person back to this earth. So and when the results of past action then will start working in the next birth, and that is called prarabdha karma. And as long as that prarabdha karma lasts, the body and mind of that person will be here on this earth plane. And I was talking about very bad action, extremely bad action called atutkata karma. That is killing or hurting a saintly soul or a holy temple or hurting a defenseless woman. If that is done, then the effect will come immediately, almost immediately, very soon. And the effects will be terrible. When I was a young monk in India, I was at the headquarters office of our order, which is called the Ramakrishna Mission. And I would sometimes had to go to a lawyer who would not charge any money. Monks don't take any salary, and that's why many lawyers and doctors don't charge any money when they have to help a monk or monks. So this particular lawyer was a devotee lawyer also. She would not charge any money at all. And our work in India is relatively vast. Many activities are there, philanthropic activities. They are all done with the help of the unselfish gift of people. Even the government gives us gift because they trust us very much. And monks don't take any salary or anything. They only serve. And so I used to be sent to Calcutta from our headquarters, which is in Belun, but a few miles away from Calcutta. So I had to go to Calcutta. And that lawyer devotee, he would treat me like his son, because he was much older than me and I was quite young at the time. And he would talk to me freely. Then one day I went to him and he said to me, "Have you read today's newspaper?" I said, "No, I have not read." Then he said, "There is a news there. The Attorney General of India was suffocated to death by a burglar." Then I said, "Oh, is that so?" Then he said, "No, there is a story associated with it. This Attorney General was a barrister in Calcutta, and there was a very rich man near Calcutta who had lots and lots of money, and he, in his will, and he had two wives, the older wife and the younger wife. And in his will, he gave half of that money to his older wife and the other half to the Ramakrishna mission, that is our order. But the younger wife, when that gentleman died, the younger wife falsified his will. That gentleman had to go abroad frequently, so he would sign some legal paper, blank legal paper, in case something had to be done, and then they would use the rest of the paper to put the subject, whatever was needed. Anyway, so then after his death, the younger wife created a false will. And according to that will, all the wealth of that person came to that second wife. And there was this barrister was there who drafted that will or testament. And they needed a witness, so another lawyer became the witness. And that barrister became the attorney general. So that devotee lawyer, he told me that he did that bad work. He wanted to do harm to the holy order. That's why he has faced such a death. And I asked, what happened to the other lawyer who was the witness? So, that is another story. He one day came with a very sad face and said to me, that devotee lawyer was telling me, he came to me with a sad face and said, I have lost all my money. I put all my money in a certain bank, that bank failed, and I'm not going to get anything. So that's what happened to him. So that devotee lawyer had many such cases which you could mention. Here also in this country I have seen that there was a person who used to stay in our center. We accommodated him there. He wanted to help us and all. And he did certain kinds of work. But I thought well of him. And then our vice president at that time was Swami Bhaskarananda. He is a saintly soul. He came here for a visit, and then he was with us for, I don't exactly remember how many days, less than a week. And then before leaving, he said to me about that person who was staying with us. He said, don't allow him to stay here. Because he could see through people's minds. Don't allow him to stay here. Ask him to go. Anyway, he was the vice president, so I obeyed him and I asked that person to leave. And after he left, we came to know that while he was staying with us, and we are not supposed to run any business or anything, but he was privately running his own business. And we are not even aware of that. Then his nature was not good. So he cheated some elderly rich ladies, widows, of their money. And as he had been asked to leave our Vedanta center here, he was not too happy, I think. So he complained to the authorities, the city authorities, that we were not fit to be given any tax deduction, tax remission. Because we are a non-profit corporation. He said no, that status cannot be applicable to them because they are not honest and all this. We complained. And then the department sent someone, an inspector, to come and visit us and check whether that complaint was correct or not. And they found out that the complaint was baseless. And then I called that head of that department and said, who complained it? Then he, almost angrily, he mentioned the name of that person. Because he didn't like that person, obviously. And what happened to that person? He wanted to destroy our tax-free status. It did not succeed though. He had to go to jail for 2 years for some other reason. He had, for some other reason, and then he would have been in jail for many more years because he had been cheating those defenseless elderly women. But luckily, he developed some illness and died. I prayed for him. Said, God, please forgive him, and all that I said. So, doing harm to a saintly soul or a holy temple or hurting a defenseless woman is very bad, and its results will surely come. And those who help, they are rewarded by God also. There is a person, a devotee, he at that time our financial condition was not good at all. And then he used to help us every month. Then in those days, a total of nearly $100,000 he gave us. And he got the reward. He has now 3 multi-million-dollar homes and another home which may not be multi-million-dollar, 4 houses. And financially he is very stable. And we have a center in, educational center, very large one, near Calcutta. It is called Sarada Pitha, named after the Holy Mother, Sri Sarada Devi. And it has many educational institutions. It runs a famous residential college called Vidya Mandir. And then it also runs a college for those who teach students. In India that is called BT College, Bachelor of Training. And like that several educational institutions it runs. And the Swami who was responsible for building that center, he was Swami Bimuktananda. And he was a very saintly soul. I saw him. And then he was quite elderly, and then eventually he died. But one Swami from that center was posted in other centers. And I knew him also, and he seemed to be very kind, and I had very good opinion of him. I respected him. He was older than me by many years. And then during one of my visits to this country, to India, from this country, there was a Japanese devotee who would pay for my fare to go to India from Japan. And Japanese center would invite me every year, and I went there 20 times. And so I got to go to India also. When I visited India, I saw that particular Swami in the convalescent home at our headquarters in Belur Math. And his condition was very bad. Both his arms were paralyzed. He could not use his arms. And by seeing that condition, I felt very sad. And I had a few dollars left with me. I left that money for his care. Then when I came back to America, I talked to Swami Adishwarananda, who used to be also a monk in Sarada Pitha, like this monk who had lost the use of both of his arms. He said, it is so sad, this has happened to him. Then Swami Adishwarananda said to me, you see, you don't know the past. That monk tortured Swami Bhimuktananda. I said, how did he torture? He said, well, he did not have enough education. Other monks were either teaching in the college or they were superintendents of the hostels, because it was a residential college. All colleges were residential. And those who were well educated. But he did not have enough education. So Swami Bhimuktananda asked him to take care of the dairy. That means they had 4 or 5 cows, milk cows, and to take care of those cows. And he felt humiliated, most probably, Swami Adishwarananda said. That's why he would speak against Swami Bhimuktananda. And Swami Bhimuktananda heard that, but he felt hurt. But he didn't say anything to the monk. He was a saintly monk, Swami Bhimuktananda. But he died in Sarada Pitha, Swami Bhimuktananda. He was very elderly. And when he was in his deathbed, the monks of that center, Sarada Pitha, came to see him there. They were standing around his bed. And then Swami Bhimuktananda said that monk was also there, that whose 2 arms were paralyzed later on. He was there, and who used to take care of the cow shed and those cows. He was there. Then Swami Bhimuktananda said to him, you see, now you will be happy because I am down and out. With some hurt feelings, Swami Bhimuktananda mentioned it. So Swami Adishwarananda said, he gave pain to Swami Bhimuktananda. That's why I am not surprised that he has lost the use of his 2 arms, because that is very bad action. He also knew about Atyutkata karma. Hurting a holy man is bad. Yes. So, the divine incarnations, they do not incur any results of their karma, because they don't have ego like which we have, because they are divine beings in human bodies. They are free from that. But still, some of the divine incarnations are seen to suffer from physical illness. So, our scriptures say that illness they have, not because of their past actions, bad actions or anything. It is because out of compassion, they absorb the bad effects of the action done by others who would come to the divine incarnation. And the divine incarnation would absorb those. You may say, if I use the word sin, you would absorb their sins. And that's why they suffer. Sri Sarada Devi, a divine incarnation, she used to say that if a person is a devotee and he depends on God's grace, then his suffering is very much reduced. A devotee who depends on God completely, no matter what action that devotee may have performed in the previous life, but the results will be very good. Bad actions will produce some suffering, but that suffering will be reduced. Suffering will be reduced. He used to say, had they been required according to their past karma to go through a sword injury, they would only have a pinprick. That's how we can help ourselves. Let us depend on God. Yes. All right, I have spoken for more than 35 minutes, nearly 40 minutes. I think I should stop here. Thank you all for listening. Now let me conclude with a prayer. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, may all be happy. Sarve bhavantu niramaya, sarve santu niramaya, may all be free from illness. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu, may all see only goodness everywhere. Nakashchit dukkha bhag bhavet, no, let no one suffer from misery. This is my prayer.